If you've got some holes in fiberglass and want to know how to repair them properly, you have come to the right place. Today we're going to be filling in these little transom holes, and with quality fiberglass repair, prep work is very, very important. You want a clean, dry surface so you get a really nice bond. We've already actually started doing some of the prep work on this little East Cape skiff, and we've removed some material here to kind of start things, but I didn't finish that prep work because I wanted to show you folks at home how the pros would do it. Now, if you're new to the channel, I want to welcome you. My name is Joe Buskins. This is our family's boat shop. I'm a second-generation professional boat builder and a 100-ton licensed captain, and we do all kind of repair work here on the channel. So let's start by reaming out those holes there. A little bit of PPE is a good idea. Let's clean these guys up. Now what that's going to do is remove any sealant residue that may be in those bolt holes. We want a good, clean, and dry surface, as I said earlier. The next step would be to put a nice bevel around this edge, because we're going to be using a combination of a thickened putty made out of vinyl ester, and we're going to be using a little bit of fiberglass. Now there are a variety of tools that could work. This is a little angle grinder with a disc attachment on it. I'll try to be sure to put that in our link below in our Amazon store, where we have all the supplies that we use here and the tools we use. I'll put a link there for your convenience. Shop vac is a great thing to have around. That's going to help control the dust. And this is going to be turning this way. So we want to try to test the ball. Same on the back side here. That is looking pretty good. Now again, as I stated, there are varieties of tools you could use. A die grinder could even possibly work. A little angle grinder. We've even got some specialty tools such as this Makita little belt sander. Whatever you have at your disposal. Honestly, we try to make this channel so the DIYers at home can replicate this kind of work. Quality results, but you don't necessarily have to have like professional grade tools like we may have around the shop. Vacuum's really good about controlling dust, but we've got two big holes on top. We got two more down to the bottom. But for the sake of the video today, we're just going to focus on the ones that the camera can capture and these ones here on top. So if you follow the channel, you'll know that I'm a big fan of vinyl ester resins. Vinyl ester's a lot stronger than polyester resin. This comes from Fiberglass Warehouse. Very good discount code, a Fish Bump TV discount code if you want to replicate this stuff. And then we've been working with them directly to get a vinyl ester structural putty, bonding and repair. This stuff is reinforced with glass fibers. It's already pre-thickened. And again, if you've been following the channel, it looks very much like the material that we use here in the shop all the time. We're also going to be using some peel ply, which is a fairly new material for a lot of folks. They're not used to using it, but that's going to help smooth out our glass work. Now, let's start. I would say we probably only need about an ounce or so of thickened putty. And generally speaking, an ounce is going to be about a golf ball size. I would say maybe an ounce and a half. So that would give you a pretty good idea. I would say probably about that much would be an ounce and a half, with that being about an ounce. Typically, we're going to use some MEKP to activate this. And when you order some, it's going to come with that. And per our little cheat sheet here, 1 ounce is going to require about 10 to 20 drops. Now, I'm going to go pretty spicy today. I'm going to want this stuff to kick off because we're running out of daylight, and I want this stuff to move right along. So I like to make the little divot in the middle. About 20 or so, and then we're going to go about 10 or 15 in that one. Little on the spicy side. Very important to wear some PPE when you're dealing with MEKP. This stuff is not to be in contact with your skin, especially on your eyes. An important note, if you ever mix any of this, you never want to put it back in the can. It's going to activate what's in the can, and that would be no good for you guys at home watching. So let's mix that in very thoroughly. Cut it, roll it, turn it. Very important also to use something other than cardboard for your mixing base. This is some signboard material. It's a plastic. Aluminum could work. A dense plastic could work. If you use something like cardboard, it's going to potentially soak up some of the solvents in your putties and fillers and change the consistency of things. And that's not good. So a good thorough mix is critical as well. Sometimes people have problems because they don't spend enough time mixing in their activator. If you don't put the catalyst or the MEKP in this material, it will not cure and harden properly. And that is a big problem. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, if you're new to the channel, I want to welcome you. If you're not, I want to thank everyone for your continued support. We've got over 170 DIY related videos here on the channel to teach you folks at home how someone like myself who grew up in a boat shop would do repairs that are going to be pretty common to the average boat owner. Also, people that own RVs, you can possibly use this around the house. We even have a few folks that are building light aircraft that are using materials such as this. That's where the vinyl ester and even epoxies, you're upping the game a little bit. Much stronger, much better at bonding or secondary bonding and waterproofing compared to your polyesters, and a wide range of compatibility with it. That's why I really like vinyl esters. All right, so we are almost there with the mix. Now, I know our videos tend to be on a little bit on the long side, but they're high in detail. So if you folks will hang in there with me, I will make sure there's high value and we won't waste your time. Another little trick I've learned, if you're watching me, you can go to a settings sometimes and play back speed 1.5 or 1.25 and speed things up a little bit. You can consume these longer videos a little bit faster. So another trick that we like to use here in the boat shop all the time is going to be the Ziploc bag trick. Now, this is another specific one. You want ones with hard corners in it. I like this particular, the Ziploc storage bags. Those seem to work really well for me because they have a nice sharp corner there. You don't want the ones with the pleated bottom. If you can help it, they don't dispense the putty as nicely. So we've got the corner pointed down. We've thoroughly mixed our vinyl ester putty. We're going to load that bag right up, almost like doing pastry work, if you will. Shake it down right there in the corner. And we're going to need some scissors. So we're doing a hybrid approach. We're going to be using some putty, and we're going to be using some CSM and some vinyl ester resin here in just a bit. So it's going to be a pretty cool little repair. Something a little different. And we have a variety, again, like a variety of videos here on the channel, but try to give something for everybody. That's going to squeeze right through. You can see we're coming through all the way on the back side and through on the front side. Going to get a really quality fill there. Same deal, I'm going to try to push that in, squeeze it through, cap it, wipe it. Looking pretty good. A little bit more. Pastry bag trick is the hot ticket. That's going to give you a bubble-free, nice, pure fill. Top and bottom. Can always add a little bit more. Like, for example, if we feel like it's a little bit low there and we want to float that out, very easy to come back and blend that with a little more material. Same here. The consistency of this stuff is fantastic. I have to give credit where credit was due. Fiberglass Warehouse pretty much replicated the putty that we make here in our boat shop all the time that we've been showing on the channel. It's a mixture of milled fiberglass fibers and like a colloidal silica to thicken things up. And it's pretty much a universal boat shop material. And man, does it work nice. Now's a good time to ask you folks what kind of projects you're working on at home. Always fun to see in the comment section. And then we also want to thank our Patreons that we're working with currently. There's a number of you folks out there that are working on your project boats, and we're talking to people, helping them walk through the process. And that's a good way. If you need my help directly, you can reach out to me or contact me through Patreon. We can schedule an appointment, help you walk your way through your own personal repair job. Now that looks pretty good. I'm going to clean this board. Now I'm going to try to move through things rapidly today. Videoing this stuff and then doing repair work can be a bit of a challenge sometimes. I'm going to clean our blade, have this setting on standby in case we need it. Now we're going to be using a little bit of CSM to reinforce that. And again, the vinyl ester that we're using here is the same material back and forth, so they're completely compatible. And I'm just going to go with a couple ounces there. That's probably more than we need, but I hate to run shy. I went ahead and marked our little mixing cup, and for you folks there on the metric system, that would be about, looks like about 65 milliliters or so, between 50 and 75. So about 65 milliliters. And again, per our cheat sheet, 1 ounce would be about 10 to 20 drops. So we've got about 2 ounces there. So let's go, with about 30 drops or so of our MEKP, methyl ethyl ketone peroxide. That should be pretty close. Now I've been doing this my entire life, and we get pretty good at what my dad called eyeballing things. You kind of get where you look at it. Now what's interesting is it got a purple look to the resin, but as you activate it or mix it, you're going to see it kind of take on a brownish hue or tone. That is completely normal. And then sometimes it'll develop a little bit of a foam or some bubbles. You can see them kind of happening there. That is a chemical reaction that's going on. That's what we want to see, it change color. So that means that we have got good activation with our resin. Little 2-inch chip brush, pretty hard to go wrong. I usually like to take it and make sure that there aren't any loose bristles in there so that they don't make their way into your work. And you'll see here that we've already accumulated a few little pre-cut pieces of CSM. All I did is took some scissors, I tore some little pieces, and then I kind of trimmed the edges a little bit, because this particular repair, the pieces I tore were just a little too wide or a little too big. Now we're gonna try to do this carefully. Now a lot of times I would recommend doing some masking, but again, we've got a lot of practice at this, and you can kind of make it work if you've had practice, enough practice. And we still may get a drip here or there. This little boat belongs to my buddy Lou Childry. If you're watching, Lou, cool little boat, man. I like it. Try to get this thing operational for him. So the structural putty, again, is quite strong, and it's got a lot more strength than your typical body fillers. But a lot of times I personally like to fill the hole and then put a little bit of glass over it just as extra insurance. And CSM is very good. Just remember, one of the reasons we like vinyl ester is because it's compatible with CSM or chop strand mat. Epoxy generally is not. It doesn't work real great with it. The binders. Now, if you're overseas, like our friends watching from Australia and the UK, you may be able to get a powder binder in your CSM or CSM with a powder binder. And if that's the case, then epoxy can work. But here in the States, for one reason or the other, it is tricky to find that kind of material. I'm gonna go one more little piece over here on this side. There's no substitute for just trying your hand at this stuff, folks. If you've never been around fiberglass or never used it, there's definitely a few little tips and tricks there, but don't let it intimidate you to the point where you're afraid to use it. And that's what this channel is all about, sharing our family's knowledge. My father was a boat builder. He taught me the craft and the trade. And quite honestly, people that do this kind of work, it's kind of a dying craft. There aren't many young people getting into this as a profession, and that's one of the reasons we decided to start sharing information here on the channel for people that could take this information and maybe make a career out of it. Oh, that's looking really nice. I like it. We're just layering that CSM right in there. We're gonna make these holes go away. Now, if this intimidates you a little bit, sometimes it's good to maybe get a little material and practice on something that's not critical. There's no substitute for putting your hands on it and just working with the material a little bit. All right, so that was only one layer there. Let me see if I tore a couple more. Sometimes I use a little more than I imagine I might. Now, what I had done, you can see I tore these and they got ragged edges, but it was a little too broad and kind of outside the scope of where I was repairing. So just use materials at hand. These are some Fiskar scissors, nice kind of industrial grade ones, but they're not terribly expensive. Again, I'll try to put a link below our video's description for folks that want to use some of the same stuff that we're using. Trimming it down, making it work for you. Adapt what you can use. Again, I try not to be a fanboy. I do really like the vinyl ester because I sincerely believe it is the best all-around material for the DIYers out there. It's very easy to work in a lot of ways compared to epoxy, but it has similar strength and bonding characteristics, so that makes it very appealing to me. But if you can only get polyester, I would recommend going with a quality ISO or isophthalic polyester. That is what we actually built our 29-footer out of, is built in its entirety. I had somebody ask the other day in questions, if vinyl ester is better, why didn't we build the boat out of vinyl ester? And that's a good question. We certainly could have. One of the reasons is cost. We used about 155 gallons of resin when we were building that boat, and if you're doing a small repair job and a gallon or two of material, that may not be the price difference is not a big deal, but when you're buying a lot of it. And then secondly, by boat building standards, for most applications, ISO polyester is completely fine when you're building a boat brand new and all the resin is curing together. But if you're trying to do repair work on a boat that has fully cured and been around for a while, then you're a lot better to go with a vinyl ester because it's going to bond more aggressively and seal things better. So we're going to put a few more little pieces here, and I'm trying to move fast because once you activate this material, it waits for no one. This stuff is going to move along what my dad called kick off. There we go. Oh, we're already getting a little kicking there. That's quite all right. Still got a little wet resin in my brush. This stuff really went fast. But that's kind of what I wanted. We're trying to get this done. We're trying to get this done this afternoon. Now I wanted to show you one more thing. I want to set this off to the side. I wanted to show you one more material that you might enjoy seeing how it works. And I'm gonna try to catch this stuff before it cures. And we're using a little bubble buster roller and some peel ply. This will smooth out things for us. It's a great little trick you can use for creating a surface barrier or film and helping your resin dry thoroughly and tack free. It can be used with epoxy, it can be used with polyester, it can be used with vinyl ester, and it really smooths things out. It doesn't look like it would work, but it works amazingly well. Same here, we're just going to let it extend. Now one of the things I have learned working with peel ply is you want to leave some edges exposed that you can grab and peel it off with, because if you roll it all the way down on all the corners, there's nowhere to start, and that can make it tricky. One more piece. Now I've also spent a little effort before we started glassing, obviously prepping everything. Got everything out, laid everything out, had a plan. That's going to make a big difference in how your work goes if you can have a plan, lay out all your materials, and then follow along with the plan. This is a very common thing. Sometimes, say for example, if you've got a single engine boat and you're going to twins and you're moving things where you need to fill in the holes, or vice versa, if you're going from twins to singles and you have a series of motor bolt holes, this would absolutely be a point where you could apply that. Now this being a smaller boat, we're going with a little less glass on here. But the principle's the same. Usually bigger boats, we're going to use more layers and more material. Smaller boats, a little less. But I'm pretty happy with that. The peel ply kind of came out flush. Now again, I've got these lower holes down there that we are going to be filling as well. But for the sake of the video, this will give you all the idea. It would be exactly the same on the lower ones. Now one thing here on the channel, we always will keep a acetone bucket. I get this question a lot. People are like, how do you keep your rollers and brushes clean? And we just like to keep our gear in that sealed acetone bucket. Just remember, acetone is very volatile, highly flammable, to the order or even beyond gasoline. So you would never want to smoke or an open flame or electrical sparks or anything like that. Be cautious and careful, and some good airflow so that vapors don't accumulate. But I think that looks quite good. Now what we're going to do is, based on how fast this material it's already kicking off there, folks. You can see now typically I don't try to waste any material, but sometimes when we're making the videos, I just don't want to run short while we're glassing, and so sometimes I'll make a little extra stuff. But the way this is going, this will be cured here in probably 20 or 30 minutes. We're going to peel the peel ply off and show you the finished results. We've given our vinyl ester with the peel ply about an hour or so to cure. Now we remove this along pretty rapidly. A lot of times you may let it cure all day or maybe even overnight. And again, as I mentioned earlier, one of the things I've found with peel ply is you want to leave a corner available, and then I like to peel it at a sharp angle away from your application. And look how nice and smooth that is. Pretty decent looking little repair. Same for over here. Very sharp angle, pulling straight away. And that allows your resin to cure completely tack free. I know I get a lot of questions. People are like, how do you get your resin to cure fully, which we've got other episodes where we discussed that. Now, while y'all were away, I went ahead and did the lower ones as well. But look, camera can zoom in. Look how nice and pure that looks. We don't have a lot of bubbles in there. We don't have a lot of porosity. We don't have a lot of texture. This is going to be very close to sanding. Same way over here. These, we can go ahead and grab that corner, peel away, nice and sharp. Beautiful little repair. Very therapeutic to do this kind of stuff and see something that was busted or broken and you can repair it. Everybody should know how to do a little bit of fiberglass and composite work. And yes, I've had people ask, is there a difference between vinyl esters and polyesters? Absolutely, yes. Fiberglass Warehouse carries the very best vinyl ester I've ever used. Fish Bump TV discount code. They've got a limited supply of the vinyl ester structural putty, and they also offer it in quart sizes. So if you want to test some in a smaller quantity, very competitively priced for a vinyl ester product and super, super convenient. And as always, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, all of our Patreons and regular viewers. You guys mean the world to me. Our channel couldn't be here without you guys' support. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, tell a friend. Captain Joe here with Island Marine Charters, Fish Bump TV. My son Logan working hard behind the scenes as my amazing cameraman. And we'll catch you in the next episode.